Remember that record that you bought me like 2 years ago? Well, I just remembered that it's sitting in the closet. So I called you up just to tell you I've been meaning to listen to that. I've been meaning to listen to that. Why don't you come over and talk about it? Ooh, why don't you come over and talk about it?
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to I've Been Meaning to Listen to That, the podcast where we go through albums we've been meaning to listen to and use as a conduit to learn about each other and our guests. I'm Andrew Ambrose Lee.
And I'm Jon Butts.
Yeah. And this is very exciting here. We got a returning favorite. She was on our Olivia Rodrigo Guts episode. She's directed commercials for Adobe, for North Face, for what's the orange company? Like Sweeties? Like
Peel.
Yeah, sorry to mention there.
Sweeties.
Peeled. She also worked with Keone and Mari Madrid on their dance choreography movie Space and Time. It's Gracie Koh. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay.
That's amazing.
Yeah, because like sometimes I'll ask the guests like, okay, how do you pronounce this? I just want to make sure I get the credits right before I start. And then like when it comes to actually, you might know her from blah 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 blah. It's completely wrong thing, you know. I psych myself up because I'm like I want to get it right, and then like when but it's like all edited and stuff, so it's fine. So
no, you got it right on the spot. Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm Gracie, and I'm very excited to be on here again and just talk about this album because I guess we'll get into it, but I don't really listen to albums all the way through, but when I do, it's definitely something I love to like break down with people. So looking forward to it.
You just texted me out of the blue, said like, hey, have you listened to Sabrina Carpenter's Short and Sweet? And I gave you some of my thoughts, but they weren't fully like fleshed out because I only listened to it like twice. And then I invited you onto this show. So like, what's your history with Sabrina Carpenter? What does your fandom look like? You said she's like one of your favorites, even though last year you said Olivia Rodrigo was one of your favorites of all time. So where are you at with all this?
Yeah. I've always known of Sabrina Carpenter. She's always been like the sort of like Disney kid star. I never really watched Disney Channel or was not really involved in that community, but always knew her name. I do like a few actually of her old music from like previous albums, but I was never like an avid listener. Kind of heard more about her through the quote unquote internet drama of one of my favorite artists, Olivia Rodrigo, which is funny because there's like a lot of history according to the internet between these two artists. But I think more recently this year, I think she became actually one of my favorite albums to listen to. So that's just sort of just like big knowledge of her. And then it really came hard this year.
Yeah, I think that's the same for like a lot of people. But what about you, Jon? Like, what's your Sabrina Carpenter history?
Yeah, I didn't really have any, which was part of the reason why I wanted to hop on this episode, because I feel like I've heard her name and I've seen like this album art for a while, but just like did not know the songs. I remember she had that single from her first album that my wife really enjoyed, but I always called it like the Ariana Grande song. Yeah. But it wasn't Ariana Grande.
Was it Nonsense?
It was called Nonsense.
Yeah. Nonsense.
And, octave. Blah, 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 blah.
I was like, wait a second, this isn't Ariana Grande? And ever since that single, she kind of went into like a black hole. And then recently on Twitter, I feel like, I'm not sure if you're familiar with like the Dr. Umar meme, but like there's a lot of Dr. Umar isn't a real doctor when it comes to Sabrina Carpenter.
What do you say about her?
No, not him, but like I feel like the chatter is always like black dudes and like someone like Sabrina Carpenter and be like, oh, I'd never listen to Dr. Umar's words. He's not even a real doctor. Yeah, so that's like my kind of history. I just didn't really know who she was. And I feel like I learned that she was on tour and selling out arenas. I was like, wait, who is this person selling out arenas? And I'm not even like in the loop on. So yeah, very new to the Sabrina Carpenter world. And yeah, that's a little bit of my history.
Yeah, it's always like the internet's so wild sometimes because there'll be like a streamer who has like a billion like views every stream they do, and I've never heard of them ever in my life until like 2 days ago, like or whatever. And like this part of the internet I have no clue about. And then like Sabrina Carpenter, like the Disney Channel world. I when I was a kid, I only was allowed to watch like PBS and stuff. It came from a religious household, and like only allowed to watch PBS and Arthur, and like I would like I think The Simpsons and like what's it called Homestar Runner and all those shows were kind of like my gateway into like more contemporary like adultish content, but it was like through animation and stuff like that. So Disney Channel stuff I only was aware of through whenever we would like be traveling and like go to a hotel, and like that was like I would look forward to the time.
The
like,
best.
Yeah, we could like because we didn't even like have access to it like back then. Like I would like watch Drake and Josh like on the laptop, and like it would take like 2 hours to like watch an episode of that. So yeah, that was exciting. But as like a lot of people, I was aware of Sabrina Carpenter as the other woman in the driver's license love triangle thing.
Wait,
I didn't,
what?
Yeah.
I'm learning this in real time.
Yeah. She's,
wow.
the line is in driver's license, and you're probably with that blonde girl who always makes me doubt she's so much older than me. She's everything I'm insecure about. And then from another song, she says, now I'm picking her apart, like cutting her down will make you miss my wretched hearts. But she's beautiful. She looks kind. She probably gives you butterflies. Okay. Yeah, like that. Like
wow.
That's about Sabrina Carpenter apparently, and probably is. And I was aware of this love triangle, but because I was employed, I didn't dig too much into like the like actual intricacies of it. But I remember seeing that I was so like on Olivia's side. She so exceptionally expressed your yearning, her humanity, and pain from her perspective that when I heard that Sabrina Carpenter wrote a response song, I was like, I don't care about it. I don't care like at all about it. And then like, I heard that like apparently there were like people were pretty mercilessly harassing her and Joshua Bassett or whoever this other guy was. And then 3 years later, she just like became the new it girl basically. And I don't know. I kind of view it as Olivia Rodrigo and Sabrina Carpenter kind of bursting forth from the utopia / wreckage of the Taylor Swift era of like pop music, of just like they're both like she's cheer captain and I'm on the bleachers. Like they're Taylor Swift, through the Taylor Swift era, you're able to like breathe life into those two archetypes and see the humanity of these two perspectives. And like I think Taylor Swift kind of created this world where people can, young women can express their emotions in this way, and like encouraged to songwrite, encouraged to pick up the pen and talk about how they feel. Where I think nowadays, like men have a hard, like they have like fewer good positive inspirations. Like I think Kendrick might be the only like positive, like very few like positive male figures to like look up to in that way. So I think there's that. I think that's my preconceived notion. So what do you think of that?
I mean, I feel like they're definitely in that Taylor Swift lineage, but I also kind of think about some of the other pop darlings. I don't want to get into like themes or stray things, but I got like this like Doja kind of cat remnants as well. Kind of, I don't know, just Taylor Swift kind of allowing this era of bubblegum pop and non-derogatory, right? To continue to thrive, that's why.
Yeah. And like the cheekiness of like what Nicki spawned of like, with the and Ariana like we talked about the very Ariana inspired thing. She has the she Sabrina seems to come from the Ariana school of not enunciating all the way and stuff like that a little bit. But Gracie, what's your perspective on what makes Sabrina so special? What makes her what drew you to her personally?
Yeah, I think I actually saw sort of a lot of people talk about like, whoa, this is her 10th year of making music, and why all of a sudden is she like a big hit? And I also wondered the same thing. And one of the most like fascinating things about Sabrina, especially in this like era of her life, is a lot of people said like she didn't have a brand to herself. Like when you think of Sabrina Carpenter, you don't know what kind of music you're thinking about, and that's why you can't really pinpoint like her quote unquote brand identity. But now that she's like refined it so much, and she's taken this approach of like this very unserious, funny, but like lighthearted themes to all of her music, it's like, oh, when I think of Sabrina Carpenter, I think of like espresso or nonsense or like all these like really fun, kind of honest songs. And I feel like even the way her like tour, the way her album, the way just like her whole aesthetic and persona that she's embodied is so distinct now, and you can exactly pinpoint what it is. I think that's what's like drew me to her, is she's like completely owned it and she's nailed it. And someone actually used this like comparison where it's like, if you can dress up as that person for Halloween, that's how you know they've had like such a strong like identity or presence. And I think Sabrina has just done that so well.
She really's like, at least, as a newcomer, I feel like she's owning like femme fatale a little bit. And kind of the buxom kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say pinup, but
a little bit, yeah,
just very much so owning a sort of confident sexuality, and that's pretty cool to see in the pop sphere. I feel like pop is always pretty tame, and maybe in sort of the hip hop space or some of the R&B spaces is where that's a little bit, those reins are loosened a little bit. But I feel like this is the first time I'm seeing it on like a pop stage in this way, or at least in a while.
Yeah. So what is it about the fact that she and like this is kind of like digging deeper into your psyche, Gracie? Like what is like what was it about the fact that she kind of identified her brand and identified who she was that like makes you go like makes you attracted to it, makes you connect with it, I guess, or aspire to?
Yeah. I think one, just like the general theme of like being able to have such a strong presence and like persona has like inspired me to like think about like, oh, the importance of how you kind of deliver yourself was very compelling. And two, it's just like it's poured into like her live performances, her marketing, her like even overall like photo shoots and rollout is like she just like does the role of her album, quote unquote, so well. It's like made her such a good performer, and she just like is so fun to watch and listen to. So like when I listen to her music, I can like see her and see like the themes, and it's like that scene in Ratatouille where like he like bites into the strawberry and there's just like fireworks, and it's like she's really nailed the, for lack of a better word, aesthetic and message she's trying to deliver in like just like a very fun and serious way. It's like not trying too hard. It's not like forcing it to be good. It's like just really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about this album. Like, so I guess like let's start by looking at the album in like more of a macro, large sense. Like, what do you feel like this album is about to you?
I think for me, it's I'm gonna say this again and again, but it's just fun. It's the kind of album you put on the car and everyone just starts like screaming, and it's like very, a lot of people use this word to describe her in the best ways. It's just like unserious, and
Mhm.
it's just so catchy. Like every single song has a melody where you start singing it and everyone goes like, "Oh, that song."
Mhm,
So
mhm.
catchy, fun, and unserious, and it's like the perfect mood booster for me when I want to like drive and sing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that to me, like it's very. I think that's just one of the themes of the album is like the her 10 years of craft, 10 years of like, because she started young. She started at like as a kid on a Disney show, like being a performer, being an artist and stuff like that. And like, it's like, I think very encouraging to see like, oh, this didn't come from nowhere. You know, this didn't come from, it's one, the part of it's just like the gathering of the brand and then the honing the songwriting craft of just, um, the perfect like pop writing, the perfect melody writing, the perfect like usage of syllables. It feels like I think when I listened to this, I didn't register all the words all the way through because I just the melody just got in my head. Be da be ba da ba bo ba da be da besto. Like the joke I made was like it was written by Bob the Minion from like Despicable Me
Oh
or
wow.
whatever, where it's just like kind of like gibberish. And then you like look at the words and they make plenty of sense and stuff. But
I feel you on that point, Andrew, because I was over here. I didn't know the words either, but I'm like, yippee-ki-yay, yippee-ki-yo, something,
yeah,
something, lasso,
yeah,
just
yeah,
like that. It didn't matter so much because of the fun that Gracie's talking about. The melody just kind of stands out and carries you through.
yeah. I guess I could share some of the stuff I wrote here of like I would say she's one of the themes is like she's an honest liar. Like she's honest about the way she lies to herself. You know, like the first line from the first verse of Espresso is I can't relate to desperation. My gives are on vacation. And like you look at the entire album and you see that that's a complete lie. You see that like that's Espresso is like right in the middle of the album and you remember it's all over the radio and stuff and it exudes confidence and it exudes this like bravado and stuff. But like you look at this album and she's like dog really like you seem pretty desperate in some of these songs their lines about like you can have him if you like I've been there done that once or twice and singing about don't mean I care I've been known to share so that's like a lie in a way like I know I have a good judgment I know I have good taste it's funny and ironic how I only feel that way and then just like in Tornado Warnings she talks about like lying to her therapist and stuff so she's very honest about how she lies. And then she's also talks about how men can be stupid, but they're also like liars at the same time. Where like her dating history, it's like this does remind me a little bit of Barbie, of like Shawn Mendes and Barry Keoghan are like singer songwriter Ken and character actor Ken in a little bit of they're stupid in the traditional sense of like they don't know the difference between there, and there. They are, and then they're stupid in the like not knowing emotional intelligence, not knowing self awareness, not knowing empathy, because they're not taught that. And then, but they still use those two things to like position game the relationship to their benefit. And then so she's this album is kind of like processing that, anthemizing these dynamics, these things that girls go through. And then she's also like, I'm kind of like foolish for falling for it at the same time. I'm kind of like, um, how stupid can they be if I keep falling for this? You know, like if I keep like falling for this over and over again. And then just like, but it's also like I think Gracie, where you're saying why this album doesn't feel heavy, it's because it's funny. It's because um, when things are hard, it's funny. When things are hard, she approaches the subject matter in a funny way, and she's laughing at herself in a way that's like more kind of inviting than like I'm so stupid. I'm such an idiot. You know, anything like that. So that's where I've been talking a lot. So that's where I'm at with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
are we still talking about kind of like the themes?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, going, short and sweet, and knowing that this album is a lot about kind of relationships and the push and pull between those. There's almost this element of not giving yourself over to a person fully, so that relationship in itself becomes kind of truncated and not fully explored, but also being okay with it being flippant in that way, and dating being kind of these shooting star fizzles, very brief, very steamy, but able to move on. And sure, there might be a little bit of jealousy, but that's kind of the decoupling of something that's short and not very serious, right?
Mm-hmm.
If someone can steal your man and you're over here contemplating the fact that you were just with him, but now he's with her, there's like an unseriousness, once again, Gracie, in this whole sort of framing of relationships. So I think that's what I gathered a lot from this, but also having fun with that too. I think that plays into like the honest liar a little bit. Just like, who are we kidding? This is not who I'm going to walk down the aisle with.
Yeah.
These are all just kind of flings, but that's okay.
Right.
Yeah. I think like kind of adding off of that, there is this, we kind of like compared it to this like pop star Taylor era, but I think she's kind of not the first, but like one of the few quote unquote radio pop artists that will talk about very like explicit things, or even like not even like explicit, but very complicated feelings that, a lot of pop songs will just like very generally talk about like fun themes that are just like for fun and because it sounds good. But her lyrics really do sound like she was going through something at the time, and she just like turned it into like a fun, unserious song. But at the time, it seems like it was something that she was really feeling, which I really enjoy about her lyricism.
Yeah. I think the other thing too, like what Gracie's saying, is like the idea of the specificity of the feeling. So like it's one thing to talk about lust. It's one thing about talk about like being in love, or the specificity of taste of, you can have my ex-partner. I already like had him, so like he's yeah, I kind of ruined him for you, or like please I'm like, please don't break my heart. I already told all my friends about you, and they say that you're wrong for following this relationship, but so please don't prove them wrong, even though this Barry Keegan, like it's like who how many people like are betting that's gonna last? You know what I mean? Like, or I don't know. No disrespect to either of those folks. I'm sure they're lovely people, but like it's like yeah, it seems like the bed cam, like kind of fantasizing, like not just like about their body, but like, oh, we'd have good chemistry together in bed, and like dumb and poetic about like, oh, like this type of man who like positions himself as like enlightened, but it really is like a dog. It really is like kind of like a insecure manipulator in a way. Like I think this is like, I think the specificity of the feeling, and then writing the song in a way and producing the song in a way that makes you remember it, makes you there. I bet there are a lot of songs about this, but like I think Dumb and Poetic like kind of distills it in a really awesome way. Any other themes, any other like kind of things y'all want to talk about just like thematic stuff?
I just also think like from an overall like album standpoint, is it's sort of like her breakthrough, and I think it's really cool to see like when artists are really not trying, but like refining and pushing a lot of work for so long, and they finally have that like well-deserved breakthrough moment. I think was really awesome for Sabrina.
So yeah, let's go through some highlight songs. Like Gracie, what's a highlight song that you want to talk about, that you just want to shout out?
Oh, I knew this question was coming, and I knew I would not be able to pick one. And I have the track list right here. Okay, I'll go through like the phases that I had and then answer your
Yeah,
question.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. Please.
the long answer is sort of what got me was actually surprisingly not Espresso. I'm not the biggest fan of that song, but it's actually Please, Please, Please. And I
Mhm.
think it was just so, it was stuck in my head for the longest time. I loved the way that her music video turned out, just the overall everything about it. And then it turned into Taste when I saw Jenna Ortega came onto that music video with her. And I just thought it was such like a sly and like very fun jab of a song. And
Mhm.
then now I'm like on repeat with Coincidence. So I will say my answer is Coincidence.
Yeah. So, okay. So then, what is it about coincidence that was so special? That like sticks with you today.
It's the bridge. It's like the buildup of the bridge when she starts singing like, "Oh, what a surprise! Your phone just died. You drove up to her
Mm-hmm,
house," and it's like the buildup and it's like the tension.
mm-hmm.
It's in a way that you think she just like acts like she doesn't care because she's like better than that.
Mm-hmm,
Um,
mm-hmm.
and kind of like what you were saying, Andrew, she's building off of this like I don't really care, but you know that she really does care, and I think that song captures that very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that song's great too. I think that's it has some lines that are just so like I think because she's such a good melody crafter and like all the syllables are so sticky, you kind of like miss the fact that she's a great writer too. Like her and her writing partner Amy Allen are like co-writing a lot of songs together. The line, "The way you told me the truth, -7% is such a great line. Like, the what a surprise, your phone just died, your car drove itself from LA to her thighs, kind of like implying this guy is a Tesla or something like that. Like kind of one of those like douchey cars too. And then like this idea of, man, this guy's like too dumb to be a manipulator because he's sloppy. His lies are so sloppy and like they're so like bold faced. And it's like funny. It's like when like I imagine like parents when like their kid lies to them and it's just like the most like bold faced, like audacious lie. Like and like a parent knows better. And she's just like, yeah. It's like and it's like funny that she's like she let it get to this point, you know, in a way. And like, I think like Lie to Girls, like kind of is the key to the album in a way of just like, damn, I lied to myself. Even though like this guy doesn't even have to do that much to like convince me that he's okay, convince me that he's a good guy deep down.
Yeah, that like nailed it on the head. Is oh man, but you like said it so perfectly because coincidence is not about like sort of like outing someone who's been like super secretive with like everything, and you know he's just like so flat out like goofy,
Yeah.
and he's messy, and she's just like almost like not surprised, and it's like a come on really song.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think like I really love the line where she was just like, damn it, she looks kind of like the girl you outgrew. That at least that's what you said. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
dang. Like
Yeah.
it's such a subtle jab to the girl that she's like referring to, but it's not in like a I hate her and I hate you. It's just like, but you were the one to say that. Like I didn't say that. And I think that was just like such a good line.
Mm. Yeah. What about you, John? What's a highlight song for you?
Highlight song for me has to be Sharpest Tool. I think that song, still getting to know the lyrics, but I think it takes kind of the boombastic fun and says pause, and then, and this is kind of like headcanon, but I feel like Sabrina is this is her like her diary moment. She's kind of sitting in a very recollective and vulnerable place with this song, and I love every production choice on this. When you listen to the first verse, her vocals sound really close, kind of like you're having like a intimate conversation, and then when we get to the "we never talk about it," it kind of dissipates and expands into this very reverby, dreamscape, kind of dream poppy almost sound that just feels really good to listen to, and like really doubles down on the emotion emotional content of the song. Yeah, so that one gets stuck with me for sure, and I think some of her best vocal work is on that song too.
And it's especially the chorus when we hear "we never talk about it" for the first time. I was like, whoa! It feels like, just like you said, John, the world opens up, and it just feels like it's like in this void of sort of like longing and a lot of like questions. And I feel like she's able to nail the feeling of like this unsaid tension between like you and someone who's like, lots of things have happened, but you both like never brought it up. And then when she like says the chorus, it feels like a release, which I really loved about the song.
The verse is so pattery and quick. It kind of, that juxtaposition, the opposite of the chorus being that one refrain and spacey. Yeah, so good.
Mm-hmm. Because it feels like very journally, like you're writing in your journal. Like the artist's way is apparently, the idea of it is like you're supposed to like write the first thing in the morning. You write 3 pages of just like whatever comes to your head, so that by the rest of your day it's kind of like more clear. This feels like that, but very constructed. Like that feels like she like took passages from the journal, then crafted it into a really like stream of conscious, but not stream of conscious, like constructed verse. And then the like it's like the release of another moment like that too that I really like is from Juno, where she like has the line about like she's starting with a fantasy of like, whole package, babe, I like the way you fit. God bless your dad's genetics. That's weird, but like it's weird, funny, but whatever. It's like, and then like when the production changes into like this airy, spacey thing when she says, "Oh, I hear you knocking, baby, come on up." Like, so she's like fantasizing, and then she hears the knock on the door, and it's like reality, but she's experiencing the euphoria of her fantasies becoming reality at the same time, and like the affection being requited, just like and I really love the playfulness in that song of like when you feel safe and when you feel like you can explore your intimacy in a safe way, you can be more playful. You could be more silly, and like calling like. Yeah, I think that's what I like about that song. Juno's a huge highlight for me.
Juno's kind of like the happy ending to like the sharpest tool, kind of sonically and thematically. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, just like from a tour perspective, it's so funny. I feel like I've watched so many of her performance videos because they're so compelling, but like everyone makes a huge deal about Juno because of like she literally plays the role of like the song that she's talking about, and it's just like it's so fun, and it's the point in the night where everyone's like trying to record it because she like does a lot of like wild and like crazy poses, or like she interacts with the crowd. And I think just like the silliness and lightheartedness of the lyrics in Juno, where she says like, "I showed my friends and we high-fived. Sorry if you feel objectified." I was like, what? But like, it's just her like playing the role. I thought it was just really fun.
Yeah, let's go through some more highlights really quickly. Let's go through some more highlights. I think going back to one of your highlights, Gracie, my favorite song, my favorite single is "Please, Please, Please," because the heartbreak is one thing, my ego's another. I beg you, don't embarrass me, motherfucker. Please, please, please. That's like 5 hooks in a row. That's like 5 sticky phrases in a row. Like one of them would be a good hook. She stitches 5 together, and then like this is me and John and like our group chat were arguing about like Jack Antonoff of is he a good producer? And I think the moment where my opinion is, first of all, he's made too many good albums, masterpiece albums, to say he's bad. Like I think he's made some really bad albums in my opinion. Like I think Solar Power by Lorde is pretty not very good in my opinion. But like where he's like kind of like stock of just like I'm not very inspired. I'm not really like very inspired. I'll just like another young girl, like once an album produced, I'll do it. Yeah. But like this one is the production moment where it's like the percussion after the chorus. So like boom, 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 da, down, 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 is like so like that moment, like, and the fact that he like that hard percussion on the first downbeat and then the clap on the second downbeat. Yeah. Like you'd think he'd do it twice. Down, 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 ba, down, 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 ba. But like because he only does it once. The second
one's got like this weird like reverse kind of sound on it too that makes it that much more tickly in your eardrums.
Yeah, because the like the first percussion beat is so satisfying that every time I play a song I look forward to that one moment. Like.
The problem I think I have with Please, 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 and I think Jack was on a couple of other songs as a co-producer or maybe single producer, but those were more guitar-driven tracks, and this is very much so like a synth pop, synth chill wavy kind of sound. When you sandwich it between, I forget what, it's Taste, right? And then
Taste and Good Graces.
Yeah.
Those are some kind of meteor songs on like the eardrums, and Please, Please, Please has like I don't know, just like a more restrained production that I don't think quite matches in that section. I'm not saying it doesn't fit, but I just don't know. I don't know. You all can push back, but that's kind of how I feel in that transition from Taste and out of Please, Please, Please into Good Graces. I understand you want to bring it up. Good Graces is a bop. You shrugging your shoulders, you have the skating rink, all the above. But that was my one qualm with Please, Please, Please.
Where do you think, or what do you think would have been a good second song to like transition you out of Taste?
Interesting. I think since this is such a fun album, I think we need that pick me up before we go down, because to me it does like we set the tone with Taste, and it's upbeat, but I think we can go a little. Let's bump those BPMs up a little bit more before we settle down with a Please, Please, Please. Maybe switch Please, Please, Please and Good Graces, and let's have this kind of like quieter moment with Please, Please, Please and Sharpest Tool. I'm not sure. I don't work at UMG. I'm not out here sequencing albums, but at least that's my initial reaction to that question.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'd say my only low light for this album, I think all the songs are good. I just think the sequencing is a little like, because it's a pop album and because it's not quite telling a story, like a linear story in that way. Like some songs like glom together of just like, okay, how does Sharpest Tool go versus how does Coincidence go? And then when you hear the like, oh, it's that song. Like, but I think it's like an embarrassment of riches a little bit. I'm just like, okay, Taste is so good, and then Please, Please, Please knocks that out of your head, and then Good Graces knocks it out of your head, and then like where I think something like Thriller, you remember all of it. You kind of remember, oh, this like hit, like, oh man, I'm so jazzed about this, and there's a little bit of like, because I think it comes from most of it all comes from the same place in a way. It feels a little like that's the only low light for me about this album.
Yeah. I think I kind of going off of just the idea of like order and like where it takes you is I was surprised that she like put a lot of the like softer, more emotional like songs towards the end. It feels like you like get like a lot of fun songs and you're like, okay, and then it just sort of like mellows out a little bit, which I can also get tells a story in the sense of like you're having so much fun, you're a little bit delusional and like very like I don't care, and then you just like realize she does really care and she like talks about all of her honest feelings. So I could see that happen, but I feel like I wonder what it would have looked like if it wasn't like, we see like Dumb and Poetic, Slim Pickens, and then Juno is like sandwiched, and then it goes to like Why Do Girls Don't Smile, and that's like two more emotional songs, and then Juno is like the opposite, and then two more emotional songs after that.
Right.
So it's like, interesting.
Yeah. I agree. Like, because it ends on such a bummer note. It ends on like a very sad note. Like, I would like, I could see the album like just removing espresso here and putting it at the very end of just like,
right.
But
or the penultimate track, like the second to last track, because I really do like "Don't Smile" as a closer.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
I don't know if I would put it in the middle. That feels too whiplashy in my opinion. Like, it feels like too like jerking you around and just like let's let the credits play, and then there's like an end credit sequence like that's a little exciting, gets you excited for the next thing, or just like, oh, I know this one, like the Hotline Bling at the end of the Drake album, like is a very just like, oh, the first song we heard from this cycle, let's put it at the very end, and like let's get let's get people shaking their high knees after crying a little bit. Just like let's get people to like do some yoga stretches and stuff like that. Like they play it like I do take like a dance class. They play espresso at the end when it's just like the cool off stretching session like the class.
Yeah.
So any lowlights, stray observations, highlights that we haven't talked about that you would like to just shout out though?
I think Slim Pickens.
Yeah.
It was just such. That's exact. John's reaction is exactly how I felt when I first heard it. I was like, "Wow!" That like I don't even know what she's talking about when I first listened to it, but it was just her falsettos that she was hitting, and just like it shows her range as a singer is like, holy crap! Even when she sings it live, it sounds exactly the same, and it's just a really good, funny, but a little bit more of her mellower, is that a word, songs. Just her voice is just her tone, her voice, so good. But yeah, John, I don't know if you have anything else to add on top of that.
Are we in lowlights or highlights?
It's just like all over the place.
Or just kind of stray observations. I think we touched on one of my biggest lowlights, if we're not talking about songs specifically, had a lot to do with the sequencing, but there's also this thing that is not Sabrina Carpenter's fault, but I think we get in a little bit of a trap with making albums like playlists versus like cohesive works. And I think with the herky jerkiness, I was a little bit, I know, and I'm learning a lot, right? I'm learning a lot about Sabrina Carpenter, even in this conversation. But I think I struggle to have a firm grasp on where she wants her sound to go. I think that's a low light for me. There are glimpses in songs like Sharpest Tool and Juno and Don't Smile, where I feel like could be a lane for her, but she is, and I'm, going to highlights, such a good vocalist and very vocally agile that she can kind of flex on all of us and do all of these genres and all of these styles. And I understand that you have to sell records, you have to get seats and chairs, you have to be able to be played in H&M. I understand all of these things. I think I want, if my voice can echo out to Universal Music Group, a little bit more sonically cohesive project. that's a little bit of a mishmash of stray observations. My final thing is one thing that I really found myself just like smiling at when I was listening to this is all of the stacks on all of the songs, whenever she's laying her voice, and all of her ad libs. Any moment that she, even in going back to Juno, there's this like very fanciful riff that she does at the tail end of sorry if you feel objective, and like it's like she goes up and then down the entire scale. She's really, 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 really vocally talented. So that's my stray observation / final thoughts ish.
Yeah, Gracie, you have any more stray observations? Any like songs we haven't talked about that you'd like to shout out?
Yeah. I'm actually kind of going back to what we already talked about, like the sequencing and the overall, like, sort of refining the story and idea of the album. Is I agree with like Jon, is there were a few songs that I almost even forgot about, even though I had listened like all the way through several times, like, oh right, that song. And I think because it doesn't necessarily like feel like it is coherent with the rest of the songs. Maybe that one for me was like Lie to Girls and Don't Smile. Maybe coincidentally they're the last two songs of the album, but I feel like, for example, Dumb and Poetic still matched with the rest of the album, even though it was more sad and mellow and toned down, but it still talks about this theme of like being so head over heels for like a guy who's messy or very sloppy and acts like he's just so enlightened. But even though it's a sad song, it correlates well with Coincidence, and allegedly this is the same song. This man is like the theme of like every song, same guy. But Lie to Girls and Don't Smile, while they were good songs, it did feel a little bit like, I almost forgot about them. But I think my other stray observations, let's see. Good Graces stuck in my head all the time. Just like the chorus. But boy, it's not that complicated. It's just like, so good, so fun. I want to like dance.
It's a bop for sure.
It is a bop. Like I just miss that kind of like. I know a lot of people are not fans of like pop music, like radio songs that get overplayed out. H&M, Forever 21. You're just like coffee shop, but
I walk into H&M's to hear these songs. I'm like, this is a great time.
It's just so, I love that song. It's so fun.
I think like Good Graces is her most Ariana-y song. Like I think like it's the way Ariana also infuses hip hop drums with pop production as well, like the bubblegummy pop with like a very like hip hop like hi-hats and stuff. I like when she kind of showcases her pettiness. That's like a mode of Sabrina Carpenter I like. So when I think if we're talking branding, when I listen to the singles, there's Espresso, which is just like confidence. It's just confidence and just like almost a delusional level, which is great. But that's fun and that's valuable, because I think you need to be on some level a little delusional to like be successful a little bit, because you have to manifest your reality. So there's Espresso, which is the confidence. Then there's Taste, which is which is like the pettiness, and then Please Please Please, which is like kind of desperation. So those are like her brand, like the strands, the branding strands she sets up with her singles. And I think Good Graces lands in the petty strand. I really like that zone of like Good Graces and Taste, of just like, and then some of the songs about the men, some of the songs about the men who are just like having the intelligence and articulation to express how he's shitty, express how he's a bad guy, and putting into a very catchy song is pettiness. It is a great use of her pettiness. So I think that's I think that's great. And mostly her pettiness isn't evil. It's mostly not like, it's just a little like playful. It's a little just like poking at your hypocrisies, poking at her her ex. I can imagine or the person the person her ex is dating, like that taste kind of like poisoning the relationship a little bit. Like there's a little bit of that. Like,
Yeah.
oh dang, I thought like there's this song on the radio. I know she's his ex, like there's a little bit of that pettiness, which I like. But yeah, like
There was, if I can add on, it was actually really funny because Taste, after researching and falling down the rabbit hole, I was like, whoa, who is Taste about? And obviously, no artist is ever explicitly going to say, but the internets are like sleuths, and they essentially pinpointed that Sabrina Carpenter's Taste music video is supposed to be about Camila Cabello, who is Shawn Mendes' ex, and that's why in the music video they like the characters so strongly resemble like Camila Cabello and Shawn Mendes, and it was just like blowing up all over the internet that Camila Cabello wrote a song back to Taste in response to Taste. I forgot what it's called, like June Gloom or something along those lines. Forgive me if I'm wrong.
Not a good song.
And in one of her performances, when she performs Senorita, she starts singing and she's like, and when the lyric is supposed to be taste, she like covers her mouth and she looks directly into the camera, and everyone's like, and I was like, oh my gosh, I always forget that like to us, when we're listening to music, it's just like, oh, this is such a fun song, but like these are actual people who are listening to the song, and they're like, I gotta write a song back, and it's like there's like actual stuff happening behind this, and I'm like, wow, what a life to be like a musician, to like have all your feelings in a song.
Yeah, I think I have mixed feelings about that, because on one hand, it's like great that someone like Olivia Rodrigo can express how much pain she went through from this breakup and from this feeling of abandonment, or this like feeling of betrayal. I think that in a vacuum is so valuable. Like people can carry that with them, like have the vocabulary to like say, I feel like this song, but then when it like leaks into like high school drama of just like this song's about, and then like we get involved in it, it feels like it feels sort of like a little, I don't want to participate in that a little bit. I understand like people do, and sometimes that's fun on some level, but like I feel a little like mixed about that. Like unless the person was like very like evil, like manipulative or like evil or something like that, I think it's fine to write a song about that. But if it's just like a human being trying their best and like just navigating relationships, or like and you feel slighted about that, I feel torn about putting it out. But at the same time, like there's no way you could, what are you supposed to do, like not express, like what are you supposed to do, like not say how you feel, like, and like the idea of like this blonde girl making Olivia Rodrigo feel insecure is very valuable. Like, but then you just like put blonde girl, you immediately know it's her, like
right.
This is about Olivia Rodrigo, but like it's kind of like, I don't know.
No,
that's where I'm at.
I completely agree with you in terms of like artists are allowed to express like how they feel in whatever way they want, and it's like nowhere do they have like FU name and like they're like immediately calling out someone. But I also agree that I think it like falls on the fans and the audience of like people love to like stir up drama and figure out like who's at who, and while it's like from a third person just like very intriguing to like read about and deep dive, like kind of like what I was saying is like you forget that there are people, like genuine real life people with relationships who are on the other side of this, and like man, I would never want to be a person like Taylor Swift writes a song about, or just like the radio songs that you don't think twice about are actually there are like people and real feelings. And I agree with your point of like there is definitely a line of like when it gets too far and when it starts to feel like high school, college drama, she said, he said. So there is just like that line to navigate of like, oh, you're expressing yourself, but oh, also there are real people and real experiences and feelings on that side to be very mindful of.
Yeah.
And then people on the other side don't always have, the person on the other side is not always going to be Olivia Rodrigo, right? Like someone who gets to tell their side of the story. So that's when it's even more, I don't know, can be even more detrimental, or at least a cause for your own sort of understanding of how to position what you're going to release or write about.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why I loved Sabrina Carpenter's previous album, Emails I Can't Send.
I think it was a great album. I listened to that today too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, her song Because I Liked a Boy. I was like, wow, it's such a good song because it feels like she's just talking to you, but it's like you hear this one-sided song and you like villainize people because you don't know anything, and then finally after so long someone comes and like says their piece, and it's like you forget almost how like merciless or like how fast the internet and just like the audience is like jumping to assume one side, but then it's nice that there's this other side of like, for example, Sabrina's Because I Liked a Boy, she like says her piece and like how she's navigated this like very intense, blown out of proportion situation. And I thought just like that album feels so different because she was so vulnerable. But then like I feel like you see like small hints of like foreshadowing to Short and Sweet, like because of like Nonsense or Feather and like that playful side. So it seems like she's like gotten a lot of like emotional feelings in the previous album, so that Short and Sweet is more like lighthearted.
Yeah. Because I guess like the last thing I'll say about it is because when Olivia said the line about you're probably with that blonde girl who always made me doubt, like Olivia is projecting that this blonde girl has it all and has everything figured out, and because she's blonde and white, she took this man from her, and like she feels all this hurt, and but I think there probably is some benefit from being like I'm like first of all, I just want to say I'm not in the position to properly contextualize everything I'm saying. I'm not the authority of this. Yeah. Like, but like the idea of like there probably are some benefits to being blonde and white and beautiful and like a Disney star like Sabrina Carpenter. There probably are. But it sounds like from listening to Emails I Can't Send or whatever it's called, that some of it had to be built. Some of that confidence that we see in Espresso had to be built and processed and worked through. And that just because she's blonde and white and like on a Disney show doesn't mean she's as confident as she's projecting herself. And I think in this album too, we're kind of, because Espresso's the big song and we all know it and love it and like it, we project this confidence onto Sabrina Carpenter herself, like, oh, and then she's saying in the album over and over and over, I actually do care a lot. And, I can relate to desperation. I can relate to desperation. I can, I think that's just beautiful. I think it's great that we have an album from the girl on the bleachers and the cheer captain at the same time. Like that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful way to put it.
Yeah. So it's so hard to be a girl. So let's go through final thoughts and ratings. The way this works is we'll rate this album out of 10, a fun metric at the end. Who'd like to go first with that?
I'll go as the newbie, I suppose. New to the world of Sabrina Carpenter. I am not really the person who's listening to a lot of pop, so I'll get that out of the way. But visiting this world and kind of feeling the warmth, I think I also kind of missed out on coupling this with the season of it all, like actually riding down on a hot day and bumping espresso or bumping good graces. Really feels like that would have been the most appropriate, not on the way back from a family trip when it was snowing outside. But shout out to not Christina, God, different blonde pop star. Shout out to Sabrina. I don't know how much I'm going to go back to it. I think if there is one that's going to make like my playlist, I think it's going to be Don't Smile. I didn't talk a ton about it, but something about that feels very timeless and something that I could kind of just listen to. But short and sweet. It's a short and sweet project. I am going to give it a 6.5 lip imprints, lipstick marks.
Wow.
Yeah. Gracie, where are you at?
I don't know. I was thinking about this the whole time. Like, what do I rate this album? And I think what I'm gonna say, man, there were just so many good, in my opinion, songs and like no skip songs for me, which is like a really big thing. Is like, do I feel compelled to just like speed through the song or like get to the good part? But I didn't feel that with this album, so I'm gonna give it like a solid. And I don't listen to, with the context of, I don't listen to a lot of albums all the way through repeatedly, time and time again. So I have a very biased rating when it comes to just like on that rubric is a solid 9 out of 10.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's underrated. I think it's just because it's popular doesn't mean it's not underrated. You know, I think this is a surprisingly like underrated project and just like the excellence on display, like the songwriting excellence that can be taken for granted because of the era we live in where everything moves so quickly. I think there's a world where this like is like a 2024 time capsule of like, hey, remember when Espresso was playing? And that was pretty cool. But I do think there's like enough here that should and could endure beyond just a time capsule of, oh, this gives a lot of vocabulary to, a feminine experience. And that's very valuable. I appreciate I appreciate the production. I appreciate the songwriting and the vocals. I do think there are times where I will forget about it. I'll forget about songs unless I'm listening to it. But when I'm listening to it, it's great. When I'm listening to it, I'm having a freaking great time. And I think it's also just a great reminder to that your emotions, whether no matter how intense, are short and sweet too. The time when you're feeling like intensely as you feel in Please, Please, Please or in Taste will pass, too. And I think just like capturing the emotions, articulating them, and then just letting them pass is great. I think it's a great practice and a great thing. So I'm going to give it the truth minus 30% out of 10. So like 70. So 7 out of 10.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. So that was our review of Short and Sweet by Sabrina Carpenter. That was Carpenter. That was a pretty short and sweet Carpenter. Like, Gracie, do you have anything you'd like to plug? Anything you've been working on that you'd like people to see or like keep an eye out for?
That's a great question. I will use this time to encourage everyone to rest because I've been doing a bunch of that.
Mhm.
Go get off your phone and don't scroll and take time to breathe and unplug from everything because that's what I've been doing. So make sure to go do that.
Mm.
And thank you for taking the time to listen and obviously have me, John and Andrew. You guys were wonderful and I think brought a lot of perspective to this album that I didn't even think twice about. And now I'm going to be thinking about that when I revisit it and start listening to it again. So it was a really fun time.
Oh, wow.
Thank you again.
Yeah, I'd like to plug Boxwater, Cash App, Wilson, like what else? Adobe, like some of the commercials you directed. They're really awesome. Like North Face, they're really awesome
Thank
stuff.
you.
Check out her filmmaking work. I also got to see Space and Time in theaters, so check that out when that comes out. That's really it's a movie like a dance movie like with like choreography and like amazing cinematography that Gracie worked on, so keep an eye out for that when that comes out. And yeah, you check out this show, check out our Patreon show. I've been meaning to watch that. 1 or 2 times a month we review a movie, a music documentary, a movie, musical, one of those. Check out John's work. What's something you'd like to plug that's out there for you?
I've got some music out. You can go to Spotify, RVRLND. Got like EP there and like a collection of demos. But yeah, a lot of stuff on my website, www.jonbuttsishere, short films, photography. Yeah, a little bit of a hodgepodge.
Yeah. And you can follow me at Andrew Ambrose Lee on all platforms, Michael at Lemon Taco on all platforms, Stenley at Snap Sten. Jon Butts is here. Otness did our theme song. Megan Rika Young did our artwork. And Gracie, any final words you'd like to impart to our audience?
Quoting Andrew from last night. Thanks for keeping it short and sweet, guys.
You're welcome. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a good day. Click.